October 2021, a 34-year-old engineer in Dubai, a man who had never been in love, who had turned down every woman his mother brought to the table for nearly a decade, downloaded a dating app on a Friday night. He matched with a 28-year-old makeup artist in Dallas, Texas. They talked every day for 8 months. He flew 8,200 miles to meet her, spent $4,700 on a first-class ticket, brought a gold necklace with her name engraved in Arabic calligraphy, told his mother he was going to marry this woman. She opened the door. She was 9 months pregnant with another man's baby. 47 minutes later, she was dead. And the man from Dubai was on his knees in a pool of blood, calling 911 with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. This is what happens when a lie meets a rage, meets a medical condition nobody understood, inside a small apartment in Oak Cliff, Dallas, Texas. Two people who loved each other, one secret that consumed everything, and a single push that killed two people in under 2 seconds. To understand what happened on June 14th, 2022, you have to understand the two people who walked into that apartment and the lives that brought them to the same door. Khalid al-Rashidi was born on March 3, 1988, in East Amman, Jordan, the poor side. His father Faisal drove a taxi 6 days a week. His mother Samira sewed clothes from home to make up the difference. 4 children. Khalid was the quiet one, the boy who sat in the corner of the room watching everything, absorbing everything, saying almost nothing. When Khalid was 7, Faisal landed a construction job in Dubai, moved the whole family on faith and a phone call, 1 suitcase each. A 2-room apartment in Dera that smelled like cooking oil and other people's laundry. The kind of place where you could hear 3 languages through the walls before breakfast. Khaled grew up watching his father leave in the dark and come home in the dark, covered in concrete dust, hands cracked so deep the skin never fully healed, back bent from carrying loads that were meant for machines, not men. Faisal never complained, never showed pain. One time, when Khaled was 12, his father came home with blood soaking through his boot, dropped a steel beam on his foot at the site, broke 2 toes. Didn't go to the hospital, didn't mention it. Samira found the bloody sock in the laundry the next day and screamed at him. He shrugged, said it wasn't worth missing a shift. That was the model. That was what being a man looked like in that household. Control, silence, endurance. You don't show what you feel. You bury it deep, so deep you forget it's there. And you work. You work until the work replaces everything else. Samira was warmer. She showed love through action. Food on the table even when money was thin. Clean uniforms pressed and hanging by the door. Prayers whispered over sleeping children in a language that felt like a blanket. She never said, "I love you," out loud. She didn't need to. They felt it in the bread she baked at 5 in the morning, in the way she kissed their foreheads before school, in the fact that she never once let them see her cry, even when the rent was late and the landlord's voice came through the phone like a threat. The expectation was clear, and it was absolute. Be better than us. Study harder. Work harder. And when the time comes, marry a good woman from a good family and build a life that justifies everything we sacrificed to bring you here. Khalid delivered. Top of his class from primary school through university. Scholarship to the American University of Sharjah, engineering. Graduated with honors at 22. His father came to the ceremony in the only suit he owned, the same one he wore to weddings and funerals, sat in the back row. And when Khalid's name was called, Faisal cried. First and last time Khalid ever saw his father's face break. By 30, Khalid had everything his parents wanted for him. Senior project engineer at one of the biggest construction firms in the UAE, 38,000 dirhams a month, roughly $10,300. Apartment in Jumeirah Village Circle. Good car, gym 5 days a week, savings account growing steadily. Every box checked, every expectation met, every promise fulfilled. Except one. Starting when Khalid was 25, his mother began bringing names. The daughter of a woman from the mosque, a cousin's neighbor back in Amman, a Jordanian girl studying pharmacy who came from a family everyone respected. Over the years, 8, 9, 10 women. Photos passed across the kitchen table, backgrounds explained, families vetted, all perfectly acceptable by every standard that mattered to the people doing the choosing. Khalid said no, every single time. Not because anything was wrong with any of them, because the process itself felt wrong to him, transactional, mechanical, like choosing a business partner instead of a life. He wanted the thing his engineering mind couldn't calculate, the spark, the feeling, the moment when something clicks between two people, and you know, not think, not hope, know. His father couldn't understand it. After the 8th refusal, a woman whose father was Faisal's own boss at the construction firm, he slammed his hand on the dinner table hard enough to rattle the glasses. What are you waiting for? A movie star? A princess? These are good women from good families, and you say no to every one of them like you're too good. Khalid told him he wasn't too good for anyone. He just wanted to feel something real. Faisal stared at him like the words didn't translate. Love is a choice, not a fairy tale. You pick a good woman, you build a life. You choose to love her every day. That's how it works. That's how your mother and I work. Khalid looked at his father and wondered, silently, privately, whether that was love or just endurance wearing love's clothing. But he didn't say that, just said he'd find his own wife, in his own time, his own way. Faisal told him he'd die alone. By 34, every sibling was married. His brother had 3 kids. His sister Hannah had 2. Family gatherings were loud with children and laughter and life moving forward. And Khalid in the corner with a plate and a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. The bachelor uncle. The one they worried about. The one whose name came up in whispered conversations after he left the room. November 2020. Hannah had her second baby. The whole family at the hospital. Noise, joy, his mother weeping while holding the newborn, his brother's kids running through the hallways. Khalid stood in the back, watching all of it, and something shifted inside him. Not loneliness. He'd made peace with loneliness years ago. This was grief. Grief for a wife who didn't exist. Children who were never born. A future that was slipping away one birthday at a time. He drove home afterward. Sat in his car in the parking garage. Engine off, lights off. 20 minutes, staring at nothing. That night cracked something. Not enough to break, but enough to let something in. 11 months later, on a Friday night, sitting alone in his apartment with meal-prepped chicken and rice, and a silence that felt like a weight, he downloaded the app. Now Briana. Briana Denise Cole was born on August 11, 1994, in South Dallas, Texas. Oak Cliff, a neighborhood that, in the 90s, meant something specific. Drugs on the corners, gunshots after dark, mothers walking children to school, scanning the sidewalk for shell casings, the way other mothers checked for puddles. Her mother Denise was 19 when she had Briana. Her father Marcus was 21. He stayed 3 years. Then one Tuesday morning, and it's always a Tuesday in these stories, isn't it? He walked out the front door and never came back. No note, no call, no forwarding address. Briana was 3 years old, sitting in a high chair eating cereal. She doesn't remember the morning, but she carries it. Every woman abandoned by her father carries it. In the way she flinches when someone says they'll stay. In the way she holds her breath when a man walks toward the door. Denise didn't break. She bent. God knows she bent. But she didn't break. Worked 2 jobs. Nursing assistant at Parkland Hospital during the day. Gas station nights. Came home smelling like bleach and other people's problems. Kissed Briana's forehead. Collapsed. Repeated. For years. For a decade. For as long as it took. Briana raised herself in the margins of her mother's exhaustion. Smart. Creative. She drew faces constantly. Eyes, lips, cheekbones. On napkins. On homework. On the back of church programs. Had an artist's eye before she had the vocabulary to describe what she was seeing. But school was hard. Not the learning, the being there. She was the girl with no daddy. The apartment where the lights sometimes went dark for a week because the electric bill was late. The fridge that had ketchup and bread and nothing else the last 3 days of every month. She learned the lesson early, and she learned it deep. People leave. Love is temporary. The only person who stays is you. Dropped out at 16, not because she was dumb, but because she was tired. Tired of pretending she cared about algebra when the electricity was off and her mother hadn't been home in 36 hours. Got her GED at 19, cosmetology school at 20, found her gift, makeup, transformation, taking someone who felt invisible and making them feel seen. By 25, she had clients, weddings, quinceañeras, photo shoots, local music videos, an Instagram page with 12,000 followers, working from her apartment with a ring light and a dream, making $3,000 to $4,000 a month. Not rich, but hers, built from nothing, by herself, for herself. But the men kept tearing it down. Darius at 20, her first real boyfriend, 6 months. She thought she was in love the way you think you're in love when you've never seen it modeled properly. Found out he was sleeping with her cousin Latoya, caught them in his car outside a house party. Briana stood in the street staring through the windshield while they scrambled to get dressed. She didn't scream, didn't cry, just turned around and walked home. 3 miles, in the dark. Kevin at 23, sweet at first, gentle, called her beautiful every day like he meant it. Then the drinking started. Weekends, then weekdays, then every day. Then the anger that rides shotgun with the bottle. First time he hit her, it was an open hand across the face during an argument about dishes. She told herself it was a one-time thing. It wasn't. She left after 8 months with a busted lip, a cracked phone screen, and a restraining order she couldn't afford to enforce. Terrence at 25 seemed different, really different. Insurance company job, clean car, ironed shirts, open doors, didn't drink, didn't yell. Got her pregnant after 4 months, and for the first time in her adult life, Briana felt something she'd trained herself not to feel. Hope. Maybe this one stays. He didn't. When she told him about the pregnancy, something behind his eyes closed. He didn't get angry. He got absent. Stopped calling as much. Stopped coming over. Left when she was 10 weeks along. Said he wasn't ready. Said he hoped she'd understand. She miscarried at 14 weeks. 3 in the morning. Bathroom floor. Cramps so sharp she couldn't stand. Blood on the tile. Blood on her hands. She sat on the cold floor and felt the life leave her body, and something inside her broke that has never been fixed. She called her best friend Tamika at 4 a.m. Tamika Davis, the woman who'd been in her life since they were 13, the one constant. Tamika came over in pajamas, sat on the bathroom floor, and held Briana for 2 hours without saying a single word. Because there are no words for watching your best friend lose a baby alone on a bathroom floor at 3 in the morning. You just sit there. You hold on, and you don't let go. After that, Briana was done. Done with men. Done with trust. Done with hope. 3 years of nothing. Work. Sleep. Work. Sleep. Alone. Safe. Numb. Like her mother before her. Surviving, not living. Enduring, not feeling. Building walls so high that nothing could get in. Then summer 2021. A barbecue. A friend of a friend. A man named Deshaun Marcus. Deshaun was 31, Arlington, Texas, charming in the way that charming men always are when they want something. Flowers, good morning texts, restaurants with tablecloths, the kind of places Briana had never been taken to by anyone. 2 months, July and August. What Briana didn't know was that Deshaun had a girlfriend the entire time, a woman named Keisha. 2 years together, living together. Briana was entertainment, a side chapter in someone else's love story. September 2021, Deshaun vanished. Briana found out about Keisha through Instagram, a photo of the two of them at dinner. Caption, "My queen." 2 weeks later, Briana missed her period. September 28th, 2021, the same bathroom where she'd lost her first baby. Same tile, same fluorescent light buzzing overhead. Positive test. She called Deshaun. He answered once, told her to handle it, blocked her number. She drove to a clinic, sat in the parking lot for an hour, thought about Terrence, the miscarriage, the blood, Tamika on the floor at 4 a.m. She couldn't do it, couldn't end another pregnancy, not after what she'd already lost. Drove home, hand on her stomach, nothing to feel yet, decided to keep the baby. 2 weeks later, she matched with Khalid, the worst timing in human history. They fell in love the way people fall in love when they've both been starving, fast, deep, and without the caution that might have saved them. That first night they talked for 4 hours. Not small talk, real talk. The kind of conversation that skips past weather and hobbies and goes straight to the things you don't tell people until you trust them. She asked him what the last thing that made him genuinely happy was. He had to think about it for a long time, and the fact that it took him that long told her everything she needed to know about his life. He asked what she was most afraid of. She said being left. By everyone. Every time. They talked every single day after that. Not one day missed in 8 months. Morning texts from Dubai hit Brianna's phone in the middle of the night in Dallas. She'd wake up to them. "Good morning from this side of the world. Hope today treats you gently." She told him once that those messages were the first kind thing she'd experienced before 8 a.m. in years. They developed routines the way couples do, except theirs spanned 9 time zones and 8,200 miles. Every morning, Khalid sent a voice note before work, sometimes describing the sky over Dubai, the way the light hit the buildings at 6 a.m., turning the glass towers pink and gold, sometimes just saying her name and telling her to have a good day. Briana saved every one, had a folder on her phone. By March, it contained 147 recordings. She listened to them on bad days, on days when the world felt too heavy and the apartment felt too quiet, and the men from her past whispered from the corners that love wasn't real, and she was a fool for believing it could be. She'd put in her earbuds and listen to Khalid say her name from the other side of the planet, and the whispers would stop. Every night they video called and ate together. Khalid at his kitchen table with something he'd actually cooked. He was meticulous about food the way he was meticulous about everything, following recipes like engineering blueprints. Briana at her desk with takeout she pretended she'd made. He never believed her, but he'd laugh and let it go. Those calls ran long, 9 p.m. Dubai time, 1 p.m. Dallas time, sometimes lasting until 2 in the morning his time, because neither of them wanted to be the one to hang up. They developed a ritual. Whoever fell asleep first lost. He lost more often than he'd admit. They talked about everything, not surface things, the deep architecture of who they were, religion, family, childhood wounds that hadn't healed, what they wanted their futures to look like, how many kids, what kind of house, what kind of life. Khalid said he wanted 2 children, a boy and a girl, a house with a garden, family dinners every night, the kind his mother made look effortless. He wanted to be the kind of father his dad was in terms of dedication, but fundamentally different in terms of expression. He wanted to say, "I love you," out loud, to his wife, to his children, every single day. The words his father never said. The words that sat in the room like furniture nobody acknowledged, present but invisible. Briana listened, wanted every word of it, every detail. But inside her body, a baby was growing that belonged to another man. And every word Khalid said about the future was building a house on a foundation she'd already cracked. By December, they were saying, "I love you." Not in a dramatic moment, it crept in. One night she told him his voice was the first thing she wanted to hear in the morning, and the last thing before sleep, that she'd never had that before. He said the same was true, that she'd changed something fundamental in him, that the apartment didn't feel empty anymore. By January, she was the first person he thought about when he woke up, and the last voice he heard before he slept. He told his colleague Tariq at work that he'd found her, the one. Tariq smiled and said it was about time. Khaled told his mother, said her name, Briana, American, Dallas, Texas, kind, smart, beautiful, made him feel like the loneliness was finally over. Samira asked 100 questions, but she heard something in his voice she'd never heard in 34 years. Joy. Real joy. The kind that doesn't perform. She stopped asking questions and said, "Bring her home, Habibi. We'll welcome her." He went to a jeweler in the Gold Souk in Deira, the same market his mother used to walk through when they first moved to Dubai. Picked 18-karat gold, had Briana's name engraved in Arabic calligraphy, $2,300, 3 weeks to finish. The jeweler asked if it was for his wife. Khalid said, not yet. He was building a future in his mind, researching Dallas neighborhoods, checking flight costs for regular visits, reading about visa options for bringing a spouse to the UAE, the architecture of a life together, planned with the same precision he brought to every engineering project he'd ever worked on. He had no idea that the foundation was hollow, because from the very first message, Briana Cole was hiding the biggest thing happening in her life. She was 6 weeks pregnant when she swiped right on Khalid. By December, when they were saying "I love you," she was 4 months along. By February, 5 months. By April, 7. By June, when Khalid boarded a plane with flowers and a gold necklace and a handwritten 3-page letter, she was 9 months pregnant and running out of ways to hide it. The concealment was meticulous in the way that desperate lies always are. Oversized hoodies on camera, desk positioned to show only her face and shoulders, blankets across her lap, camera angles carefully maintained. Khaled saw her eyes, her smile, her laugh. That's all. That's all she let him see. She never stood up on camera. 8 months, not once. If her phone rang and she needed to grab it, she'd switch from video to audio. Every time. Her Instagram. Every post since September 2021 was client work, close-ups, before and afters. No full-body photo of Briana herself in 7 months. In March, during a video call, the baby kicked. Hard. She flinched. Khalid noticed. "You okay?" She said it was a muscle cramp. Changed the subject. He believed her because he was in love, and when you're in love, you don't interrogate. You accept. Khalid started talking about visiting in March. She panicked. Not yet. Too many bookings. Spring wedding season. Every weekend packed through May. He was disappointed but understood. In April, he asked again. She said not yet. In May, he asked again. She said June was bad. What about July? Each excuse was reasonable. 8 months of reasonable excuses stops being reasonable. But Khalid couldn't see the pattern because the pattern was made of the person he trusted most. One night in April, he told her directly, "Something feels off. I trust you completely, but something in my gut is telling me the picture isn't complete." Her heart nearly stopped. She asked what he meant. He said he didn't know. Just a feeling. She told him he was overthinking it, that long distance was hard, that everything would make sense when they met. He accepted it, pushed the doubt down, but it didn't go away. It sat in the back of his mind like a sound he couldn't quite identify. Present, persistent, impossible to locate. And Briana, she stood in front of her mirror every night, belly stretching her skin tight, feeling the baby kick against her ribs, whispering the same thing to herself. "I'll tell him tomorrow." Tomorrow never came. Her best friend Tamika tried, over and over. Starting in January, when the bump was small enough to ignore. "Girl, you have to tell that man." Then February, March, April, May. Every time they talked, the same conversation, the same plea, the same refusal. One night in late April, Tamika came over, looked at Briana, really looked at her. 7 months pregnant, losing weight everywhere except her belly, dark circles that makeup couldn't fix. "You're killing yourself with this. This stress is going to hurt you and the baby." Briana knew. She'd been diagnosed with preeclampsia at 30 weeks. Dangerous condition, high blood pressure, weakened blood vessels, impaired clotting. Her doctor, Dr. Angela Morrison, had been blunt. "This is serious. Rest, no stress, weekly monitoring. If something happens, a fall, an accident, anything, your body may not be able to stop the bleeding." Briana understood the words, went home, got on a video call with Khalid, smiled. The lie was eating her alive. But the truth felt worse, because the truth meant losing the only man who had ever really loved her. And every man before him had left, every single one. The truth, in Briana's experience, was just the door people walked through on their way out of her life. May 2022. Khalid booked the flight. June 14th, Emirates, Dubai to JFK to Dallas. $4,700, first class, non-refundable. 3 weeks off work. His first real vacation in 5 years. He told everyone. His mother, Tariq, his colleagues. He was going to meet the woman he was going to marry. Briana was 8 months pregnant. She tried to push the visit back. "June is bad. What about July?" Khalid said no. The flight was booked. He was coming. She tried to tell him. 3 times. May 28th. Started to say something on a video call. Froze. Changed the subject. June 5th. Typed the entire truth in a text message, every word, thumb hovering over send for 4 minutes. Dopplik deleted everything. June 13th, the night before his flight, called him and said she needed to say something before he came. He asked what? 3 seconds of silence. 5, 10. She said never mind. She'd tell him when she saw him. He said, "I love you." She said, "I love you too." Hung up. Sobbed until her body shook. Called Tamika at midnight. Tamika asked if she'd told him. No. Long silence. Then, "God help you both." June 14th, 2022. Dubai International Airport. Gate B16. 7:12 a.m. Khalid boarded the plane with white lilies in one hand and a velvet box in his jacket pocket. Couldn't sleep on the flight. Watched the tracker the entire way, counting the miles, watching the distance shrink between his old life and the new one he was sure was waiting. 3:47 p.m. Central Time, DFW Airport. He texted Briana.
"I'm here," she replied 2 minutes later.
Car trouble. Couldn't pick him up. Sent the address. Take an Uber. He frowned. He'd imagined the airport reunion. But things happen. He ordered the car. 34 minutes to Oak Cliff. Sat in the back seat watching Dallas scroll past the window. Highways, strip malls, churches, flat and beige and nothing like Dubai. But she was here. That was all that mattered. 20 minutes out, she texted again. "Whatever happens tonight, please remember that I love you. Everything I told you over the last 8 months, my feelings, my heart, that was all real. Please remember that." He stared at the message. Something cold moved through his chest. He asked what she meant. She said nothing, just nervous. "Ignore me." He put the phone down, but the words sat with him. "Whatever happens, please remember." Why would someone say that unless something was about to change? The Uber pulled up to the apartment complex. Brown brick, 2 stories. Oak Cliff. He grabbed his bag, walked to building 4, apartment B, ground floor. 8,200 miles, 8 months, $4,700. A gold necklace, white lilies, a 3-page handwritten letter folded inside a leather journal. Everything leading to this door. He knocked. Footsteps inside. Slow. The door opened halfway. Her face. The same face from the video calls. Same eyes, same braids. Beautiful. Exactly who she said she was. Then his eyes dropped. The belly. Massive. Round. Full term. Stretching tight under a black t-shirt that was hiding nothing. 9 months pregnant. Khalid's hand tightened around the flowers until the stems cracked. The velvet box slipped from his pocket and hit the concrete. He didn't pick it up. His mouth opened. Nothing came out. Briana, one hand on the door frame, one hand on her belly, tears already falling. She'd imagined this moment 1,000 times over 8 months, dreaded it every single night. She told him to come inside, said she could explain. The lilies hit the ground. He walked past her into the apartment without a word. The door closed behind them. Inside apartment 4B, the lie was everywhere. Baby clothes on the couch, tiny onesies, socks smaller than his thumb, a pack of newborn diapers on the floor. And in the corner, the desk, the ring light, the camera angle, the setup from every video call for 8 months, the frame that had hidden everything below her shoulders. He could see it now. The geometry of the deception laid out in front of him like a blueprint. No cameras inside the apartment, no recordings. What we know comes from Khalid's statement to Dallas police, neighbor testimony, and physical evidence from the crime scene unit. He asked whose baby it was. She told him about Deshaun, dated 2 months the summer before, over before she matched with Khalid. Deshaun wanted nothing to do with her or the child, blocked her number, disappeared. He asked if she'd been pregnant the entire time they'd been talking. She said yes. 8 months. Every video call, every voice note, every "I love you," pregnant the whole time. He asked why she didn't tell him. And here, in this moment, Briana said the thing that was both the most honest and the most devastating thing she could have said. She told him she was scared, that every man in her life had left, that she thought if he fell in love with the real her first, her mind, her heart, who she actually was, maybe the pregnancy wouldn't matter. Maybe love would be enough to survive the truth. Khaled didn't sit down, didn't unpack, stood in the middle of her living room with his jaw locked and told her what she'd done. The flight, $4,700, 3 weeks off work. The necklace, custom made, $2,300, her name in Arabic. His mother praying for a daughter-in-law. His father showing hope for the first time. Everyone at work knowing. Everyone in his family knowing. He told her he felt stupid. That word came up over and over in his statement to police. Not angry, not betrayed. Stupid. Like she'd made a fool of him. Like the necklace in his pocket was a punchline to a joke everyone was in on except him. Briana tried. Amazed the pregnancy didn't change who she was. Said the baby wasn't the problem. The lie was the problem. Khalid said that himself. He said if she'd told him from the beginning, he might have stayed. He might have, but she stole his choice. And if she could lie about the biggest thing in her life, how was he supposed to believe anything else was real? She mentioned her preeclampsia, said stress was dangerous, that her doctor told her to stay calm, that high blood pressure at this stage could be fatal. She wasn't manipulating him. She was telling the truth, the medical truth. But the words didn't land, not through the rage, not through the noise in his head. 8 months of trust collapsing like a building with the supports pulled out. Everything contaminated. The voice notes, the I love yous, the necklace, the letter he'd written on the plane. All of it built on a lie. The argument lasted 30 to 40 minutes. Neighbors on both sides heard it through the walls. Both voices, not just his. Both. A woman crying, a man shouting. Then both of them at the same volume. Mrs. Dolores Washington in 4A, Mr. Raymond Diaz in 4C. Same story. Nobody called police. Oak Cliff. Arguments through walls were background noise. Then Khalid told Briana he was leaving. Hotel, different flight, back to Dubai. Done. He grabbed his bag, turned toward the door. Briana moved between him and the exit, blocked his path, crying. The kind of crying that comes from somewhere below the chest, from the place where all the old abandonments live. She told him if he walked out, he'd never come back. She knew it. She wasn't letting him leave. Not like this. Not like every other man who'd walked through every other door in her life. He told her to move. She said no. He told her again. She said no. What happened next took less than 2 seconds. Khalid reached for her, trying, he told police, to push past her to get to the door. But his hands were shaking. 8 months of betrayal pumping through his body. Adrenaline turning his muscles into something he couldn't fully control. He didn't move her aside. He shoved her. Hard. Briana stumbled backward. 2 steps. 3. Her back hit the kitchen counter. She tried to catch herself. Hands slipped on the granite. She twisted. The back of her head struck the sharp corner of the countertop. A sound. Not dramatic. Dull. Final. The kind of sound that doesn't echo because it ends something instead of starting it. She slid to the floor, eyes open but unfocused, mouth moving, no words coming out. Her hands went to the back of her head, came away red, blood, on her fingers, on the linoleum, spreading in a dark circle underneath her. And here is what nobody in that apartment knew, the thing that turned a terrible moment into an irreversible one. Briana's preeclampsia had already weakened her blood vessels, damaged her body's ability to clot. Her brain was already vulnerable. The impact triggered a massive intracranial hemorrhage, uncontrolled bleeding inside the skull. Her body couldn't stop it. A healthy person, same fall, same counter, same angle, walks away with a concussion, stitches, a bad headache, maybe a night in the hospital. But Briana's body was already at war with itself. The blow to her head was the one thing it couldn't survive. Khalid called 911 at 8:26 p.m., 60 seconds after she hit the floor. Hands covered in blood, could barely hold the phone. Told the operator she fell, she hit her head, she's pregnant, there's blood everywhere. Please hurry. He didn't know the address. Found a piece of mail on the counter. Read it twice because his voice was shaking so badly they couldn't understand him. The operator said help was 4 minutes away. Don't move her. Keep her on her side. He held her hand. Blood everywhere. On his shirt, his hands, on the baby clothes that had fallen from the couch. Tiny white socks in a puddle of red. He told her he was sorry. Over and over. Briana, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Please, please wake up. Her lips moved once. He leaned close. She whispered 2 words, the last word she would ever say. The baby. Her eyes closed. The baby moved inside her one last time. A slow roll beneath her skin. Then nothing. Paramedics arrived at 8:31. 3 of them. Pushed Khaled aside. Briana unconscious, blood pressure crashing, the preeclampsia turning the head wound from serious to catastrophic. Emergency transport to Methodist Dallas Medical Center. Emergency surgery for the hemorrhage. Emergency C-section to try to save the baby. Khaled rode in the ambulance, sat in the corner watching the monitors, watching the numbers fall. At the hospital, they rushed her through double doors, and he was left alone in a hallway. A nurse brought water in a paper cup. He held it and didn't drink. A chaplain offered to pray. He didn't respond, just stared at the doors. 9:14 p.m. Briana Cole was pronounced dead. Massive intracranial hemorrhage caused by blunt force trauma, catastrophically worsened by severe preeclampsia. She was 28 years old. The baby boy, delivered by emergency C-section at 9:08, 6 minutes before his mother was declared dead, did not survive. Hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy, oxygen deprivation. He never opened his eyes, never took a breath. Brianna's mother Denise would later name him Jalen. It means healer. Briana had chosen the name weeks earlier, written it in a notebook on her nightstand with a heart drawn next to it. Khalid slid down the wall outside the surgical suite and sat on the cold hospital floor. 45 minutes, staring at his hands, her blood drying dark on his skin, turning from red to brown to black. The color of something that used to be alive. The same 5 words, over and over, to the empty hallway, to nobody. I didn't mean to. Dallas police detectives Maria Santos and James Whitfield arrived at 10:38 p.m., found Khalid on the floor. Santos said later that when she first saw him, she thought he might be injured. That much blood, that much shock. He told them everything before they reached the station. No lawyer. Didn't ask for one. Full statement. Voluntary, unprompted, unflinching. The app, the 8 months, the flight, the necklace, the door, the belly, the argument, the shove, the counter, the blood, the 911 call. At the station, Santos asked why he shoved her instead of going around her. Khalid paused, a long pause, the kind where you can hear someone deciding to be honest instead of strategic. Then he said, "Because I was angry. Because she lied to me for 8 months. Because I flew across the world for a lie. Because in that moment, my pride was bigger than my sense." Santos wrote that down, underlined it, would later cite it in her report as one of the most honest statements she'd ever taken from a suspect. The investigation took 4 weeks. Crime scene confirmed everything. Blood spatter consistent with a fall, scuff marks on the linoleum, the velvet box still on the concrete outside the front door where it had fallen from his pocket, never opened. Inside, an 18-karat gold necklace with Briana engraved in Arabic calligraphy, meant to say, "I love you," now evidence in a homicide. The medical examiner confirmed cause of death, blunt force trauma complicated by preeclampsia-related coagulopathy. The ME noted specifically that the force of impact was moderate, consistent with a fall from standing height. In a patient without the underlying condition, the injury would likely have been non-fatal. The baby's cause of death, oxygen deprivation secondary to maternal hemorrhage, full term, healthy weight, no abnormalities. He would have lived if his mother had lived. Grand jury indicted Khalid al-Rashidi on 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter, not murder, not voluntary manslaughter, involuntary, meaning reckless, not intentional. 1 count for Briana, 1 for Jalen. The trial began October 2022, Dallas County Criminal Court, Judge Patricia Hawkins. 5 days that split the internet in half. The case went everywhere. Hashtag Justice for Briana on one side. Hashtag Free Khalid on the other. TikTok creators made 3-minute breakdowns of a case they didn't understand. Twitter threads went viral. People who had never met either of them screaming opinions louder than anyone in the courtroom. Half the internet called him a murderer. Half called her a manipulator who caused her own death. Neither side had the full picture. Both sides were certain they did. Courtroom packed every day. Media in the back. Cameras outside. Denise Cole in the front row. Same seat, same black dress, every single day. Tamika beside her, hands held, no words needed. On a video screen from Amman, Jordan, Samira al-Rashidi watched her son's trial from 7,000 miles away. White hijab, face that didn't move for 5 days, just watched, like a woman watching something happen to her child that she was powerless to stop. Khalid at the defense table, orange jumpsuit, 20 pounds lighter than the man who stepped off the plane at DFW in June. Sunken eyes, hands flat on the table, didn't fidget, didn't whisper to his lawyer, didn't react to testimony, just sat there like a man who had already convicted himself and was waiting for the world to catch up. Prosecution. Assistant DA Marcus Hayes, 47 years old, 20 years in the DA's office, built his case on a simple premise. He was angry, understandably angry. But anger doesn't give you the right to put your hands on another person. He shoved a visibly pregnant woman during an argument. She fell. She died. Her baby died. Those are facts. Hayes was smart. He didn't try to paint Briana as perfect, told the jury straight. She lied. That's terrible, but being lied to is not a license to kill. Being angry is not a defense for violence, and a woman's dishonesty does not justify her death. The prosecution called Tamika Davis, best friend, 15 years. She walked to the stand in a black dress, hands shaking. Composed at first, voice broke twice. She said she'd begged Briana to tell the truth, over and over, month after month, starting in January when the bump was still small enough to hide. That Briana was terrified, not of violence, of abandonment, of losing the first man who had ever truly loved her. Then Tamika said something the jury would carry into deliberation. Briana once told me that Khalid was the most controlled person she'd ever known, and she said something I never forgot. She said, "When controlled men finally lose control, it's worse than anyone else, because they don't know how to come back from it." Hayes let the words sit, didn't follow up, just let the jury absorb them. Dr. Angela Morrison, Briana's OB, explained the preeclampsia in terms the jury could understand. High blood pressure during pregnancy, weakened vessels, impaired clotting, a brain that was already vulnerable before anything happened in that apartment. She testified that the head injury in a healthy 28-year-old woman would have been significantly more survivable. The preeclampsia was the decisive factor. It turned a serious but potentially survivable injury into a fatal one. Hayes asked whether the defendant was aware of the condition. Morrison said Briana mentioned it during the argument, according to witness statements. Whether Khalid understood the severity was unclear. Paramedic Lieutenant David Ortega described the scene. Victim on the kitchen floor in a pool of blood approximately 3 feet in diameter. Baby clothes scattered. Defendant kneeling beside her, hands covered in blood, repeating the same words. Cooperative, did not resist, did not attempt to flee, appeared to be in severe emotional distress. Defense attorney Sarah Chen, 31 years old, took the case pro bono after reading about it in the news, argued that Khalid was systematically deceived for 8 months, that he pushed her once, trying to get to the door, not to hurt her, but to leave, that the push was reckless, but not murderous, and that a medical condition he didn't understand and couldn't have foreseen turned a moment of rage into a tragedy no one could have predicted. Tariq Mahmoud testified via video from Dubai. 10 years working with Khalid, said he was the gentlest person he'd ever known. Never once saw him raise his voice, not to colleagues, not to contractors, not to anyone. Expert witness Dr. Robert Henley, forensic pathologist, 30 years of experience, testified that without the preeclampsia, Briana would most likely be alive. The force was consistent with a fall from standing height against a hard surface, not a direct blow. Concussion, stitches, maybe a night in the hospital. The preeclampsia compromised her blood vessels, destroyed her clotting ability, and made her brain vulnerable to catastrophic hemorrhage from an impact that would have been survivable in virtually any other patient her age. Day 4. The defense called Khalid. He took the stand in an orange jumpsuit, 20 pounds lighter than the man who'd stepped off the plane at DFW 4 months earlier. Chen walked him through the events. The app, the 8 months, the flight, the door, the belly, the argument. He described everything in a flat, factual tone, like reading a report about someone else's life. Then Chen asked if he regretted what happened, and his face broke, not dramatically, not performatively. It just crumbled, like a wall that had been holding for 4 months gave way all at once. He said he replayed it every night, the push, the sound, the way she slid to the floor, her eyes going unfocused, her hands coming away red, her last 2 words, the baby. He said he heard those words every time he closed his eyes. He said he loved Briana Cole, that the love didn't stop when the lie was revealed, that even in the worst moment of his life, the moment his hands were pushing her backward, and his pride was screaming louder than his conscience, the love was still there, buried under the fury and the humiliation, but there. He said Briana's lie came from fear, and his violence came from pride, and he'd spent every day since June 14th deciding which was worse. Pride. Pride was worse, because fear makes you hide, but pride makes you destroy. The courtroom was silent. Denise, Briana's mother, crying in the front row. Tamika holding her hand. On a video screen from Amman, Jordan, Samira al-Rashidi had both hands pressed against the glass, whispering in Arabic. Nobody could hear what she was saying. Nobody needed to. October 24th, 2022. Verdict. Jury deliberated 7 hours and 22 minutes. Closing arguments had been that morning. Hayes told the jury he had a choice. In that moment, he could have walked around her. He could have waited. He could have left the apartment a different way. He could have called someone. He had options. He chose to put his hands on a pregnant woman, and she died. Chen told the jury. This man called 911 in 60 seconds, rode in the ambulance, held her hand, confessed immediately, didn't run, didn't lie, didn't lawyer up. He made a terrible mistake in a moment of extreme emotional distress, and a medical condition he didn't know about turned that mistake into a tragedy. That's not murder. That's barely manslaughter. That's an accident that happened because two people were broken, and neither one could find the words to save themselves. The jury weighed the mitigation. The immediate 911 call, no prior record of any kind, no history of violence, no intent. The preeclampsia, what multiple jurors would later describe as genuine and devastating remorse. They weighed the aggravation, the force of the shove, the visible pregnancy, the prolonged argument, the admitted rage. Guilty. 2 counts involuntary manslaughter. Not murder, not voluntary. Involuntary. Khalid stood motionless when the verdict was read. Didn't react. A man who had convicted himself months ago, waiting for the system to reach the same conclusion. December 2022. Sentencing. Denise Cole walked to the podium. 49 years old, looked 70. She'd written something on a piece of paper, unfolded it, looked at it, folded it back up, put it in her pocket. Didn't need it. She said her daughter's name, Briana Denise Cole, said it like calling her home from the front porch. Then she said Jalen, voice cracked on the J. She told the court that Briana wasn't perfect, that she lied and she shouldn't have, but lying to a man about a pregnancy does not carry a death sentence. She said Briana was 28, about to be a mother, had baby clothes ready, had a name picked out, had a blue onesie with tiny elephants in a drawer. Denise had bought it for the baby shower Tamika was planning. Shower never happened. Onesie never worn. She said she didn't hate Khalid. Hate was too heavy to carry at her age. But she needed him to know what he took. Not just a life, a future. Birthday parties, first words, first steps, all of it gone. Because of one push that lasted less than a second. Khalid stood, said he killed the woman he loved. Without excuse, without defense, without legal language. Said his father taught him that a man's worth was measured by his ability to master himself. And in less than a second, he became the thing his father feared most, a man who lost control. He turned to Denise, said her daughter's name, Briana, gently, like the word was made of glass. Said he was sorry, not for the court, not for the cameras, for her. Denise didn't look at him, stared at the floor. Judge Hawkins. 8 years, 2 counts involuntary manslaughter, concurrent. Eligible for parole in 4. Lighter than prosecution wanted. Hayes pushed for 15. Hawkins cited the immediate 911 call, no prior record, no intent, the medical complication, and what she called profound and credible remorse. Khalid was led away in handcuffs. At the door, he turned around, looked at Denise one last time, mouthed 2 words, "I'm sorry." Denise looked away. The door closed. Khalid al-Rashidi is currently incarcerated at the Cofield Unit in Anderson County, Texas. Works the prison library, shelving books, organizing returns, checking out paperbacks to men who use them to fill the hours between meals and sleep. Quiet work for a quiet man in a loud place. The library is the only part of the prison that reminds him of his old life. Order, system, everything in its place. He can control the Dewey Decimal System even if he can't control anything else. He reads engineering textbooks sometimes, structural analysis, load calculations, the mathematics of things that hold and things that break. Not because he thinks he'll practice again, because the numbers make sense, unlike everything that happened on June 14th, 2022. Numbers don't lie. Numbers don't hide pregnancies. Numbers don't bleed on kitchen floors. His first 2 weeks in custody were suicide watch. Wouldn't eat, wouldn't talk. Just sat on his bunk staring at his hands, the same hands that had held flowers, that had carried a velvet box across an ocean, that had pushed a pregnant woman into a countertop. A prison counselor saw him twice a week. Khalid didn't speak for the first 3 sessions. Fourth session, he said one sentence. She said, "The baby," then stopped talking again. He writes letters to his mother every Sunday about the weather, hot, always hot in Texas, the books he's reading, the library, nothing that matters. Never about Briana, never about the apartment, never about the sound. But Samira reads between the lines. Mothers always do. She calls every Thursday from Amman. Same time, same phone. He picks up most weeks. Some weeks he can't. Can't hear her voice. Can't pretend that anything about this is normal. On those days he lies on his bunk and replays the sound. The crack. Her eyes going unfocused. The blood on her fingers. The baby moving one last time beneath her skin, then going still. When they do talk, they talk about nothing. What she cooked that week. Mansaf, makluba, the foods that taste like home. His nieces learning English at school, whether it rained in Amman. They never mention Briana, never mention Dallas, never mention any of it. A performance they both participate in. Both of them know what it is. Neither of them stops, because the alternative is acknowledging the full weight of what happened, and that weight would crush the call and possibly the caller. His brother visited once, flew from Dubai to Texas, 22 hours. The same route Khalid took. Sat across from him in the visitation room, looked at his little brother in an orange jumpsuit behind plexiglass, and cried. Khalid didn't cry, just said he was okay. Maze the food was bad, but the library was good. His brother flew home the next day, told their mother Khalid looked thin but stable, told their father nothing, because Faisal didn't ask. His father, Faisal, has not spoken to him since the verdict. Not a word, not a letter, not a phone call. Samira has begged, has argued, has wept. Faisal won't budge. For a man who built his entire existence on control and discipline, who poured concrete in 120-degree heat for 20 years without complaint, who taught his children that mastery of self was the only measure of a man. Having a son in an American prison for killing a woman is not something words can reach. The silence isn't punishment. It's the only language Faisal has left. Khalid understands. Told his brother during the visit, "Tell Baba I understand. Tell him I failed the one thing he taught me, and I'll carry that for the rest of my life." Eligible for parole in 2026. Lawyer says chances are good. Clean record inside, no incidents, good evaluations. If released, he'll be deported to Jordan. Never allowed back in the United States. He'll never visit Briana's grave. Never stand in front of Jalen's marker in the cemetery in South Dallas. Never walk past apartment 4B again. The city where he landed with flowers and a necklace and a heart full of certainty, and left in handcuffs with blood on his hands. Some nights he takes out the letter, the 3-page handwritten letter he wrote on the plane from Dubai to Dallas, the one he was going to read to her, the one that described everything he felt, everything he hoped, everything he believed their future would be. His lawyer retrieved it from his bag after the arrest. It was tagged as evidence during the trial, then returned to him. He keeps it in his cell. Reads it sometimes. The words of a man who didn't know yet, a man who still believed. Then folds it up, puts it away, stares at the wall. Denise Cole moved into Briana's apartment 3 weeks after the funeral. 4B, Oak Cliff. Her sister Janelle drove up from Houston and begged her not to. You can't live there, not where it happened. Denise said she was closer to Briana here than anywhere else. Said she could still smell her perfume on the pillows. She sleeps in Briana's bed, uses her towels, wears her robes some mornings, keeps her makeup brushes on the dresser, exactly where Briana left them the morning of June 14th, the morning she put on lip gloss and checked her face in the mirror and didn't know it was the last time. Won't move them. Moving them means accepting she's not coming back. Denise isn't ready for that, may never be. The kitchen counter was replaced. Landlord ripped out the old granite before Denise moved in. New counter, different color, lighter. As if that changes anything. Denise sees the old one every time she walks into that kitchen, sees the corner, sees the blood that isn't there anymore but will always be there. She cooks on the stove facing the wall, never turns around. She goes to the cemetery every Sunday. 2 graves, side by side. South Dallas, near the church where Briana was baptized as a baby. Briana Denise Cole, 1994 to 2022. And next to her, a smaller stone. Jalen Cole, June 14th, 2022. One date, born and died the same day. Denise brings flowers, talks to them, tells Briana about the weather, tells Jalen what he'd be doing this week if he were alive. You'd be walking by now, running, getting into everything, saying, "Grandma, I would have spoiled you absolutely rotten." She sits there for an hour, sometimes two, then drives home. To the apartment where her daughter died. Top drawer of the dresser, a blue onesie with tiny elephants, still has the tag on it. She takes it out sometimes, late at night, when the apartment is too quiet and the walls feel like they're listening. Holds it against her chest, presses her face into the cotton, tries to imagine what he would have smelled like: baby shampoo, powder, milk. Tries to imagine the weight of him in her arms, then folds it, puts it back, closes the drawer, stares at the ceiling, doesn't sleep, goes on. Because that's what mothers do. They go on. Tamika Davis started a support group, not because anyone asked her to, because she couldn't live with the silence, the knowing, the fact that she'd been the one person on earth who could have stopped all of it, and didn't. She blames herself, still, every day. She told the group once, the words came out like something she'd been holding underwater for months. I knew she was pregnant. I knew she was hiding it. I told her to stop. I begged her, but I didn't tell him. I could have sent one text, one email. Your girlfriend is pregnant. 4 words. Maybe she'd be alive. Maybe Jalen would be alive. And I didn't, because I was loyal. Loyalty killed her. The room was silent. Nobody argued, because there was nothing to argue. Every Tuesday, 7 p.m., church basement in Oak Cliff. She calls it the truth circle, for women hiding things from the people they love. Pregnant and scared, in debt and ashamed, cheating, lying, holding secrets that get heavier every day. She tells them Briana's story, the real version, not the news version, not the Twitter version. The bathroom floor at 3 a.m., the miscarriage, Tamika holding her, the men who left, Deshaun saying, "Handle it," the fear that made her hide, Khalid at the door, the belly, the counter, the blood, all of it. She tells them the truth might cost you the relationship, but the lie might cost you your life. Marcus, Arlington, Texas, 20 minutes from Dallas. New girlfriend, works at an auto dealership, sells trucks, goes to cookouts on weekends, never contacted Denise, never acknowledged Jalen, never went to the funeral, never sent flowers, never sent a card, saw the story on the news, recognized Briana's face, changed the channel, never questioned by police, never charged, never held accountable for getting a woman pregnant, telling her to handle it, blocking her number, and disappearing, which set off a chain of events that ended with 2 people dead on a kitchen floor in Oak Cliff. Deshaun Marcus will never spend a night in a cell, never stand in a courtroom, never lose a single hour of sleep, and that might be the most enraging part of this entire story. Because Khalid sits in a prison cell, replaying the sound of her head hitting the counter every night. Denise lives in the apartment where her daughter died, holding a blue onesie, staring at the ceiling. Tamika runs a support group every Tuesday, trying to stop it from happening to someone else. And Briana and Jalen are in the ground. But Deshaun? Deshaun changed the channel. Some people ask who was responsible. Khalid, the man who let 1 second of rage erase 34 years of discipline. Briana, the woman who lied for 8 months because she'd been broken too many times to risk the truth. Deshaun, the man who lit the first match and walked away before the fire started. Maybe all of them. Maybe none of them in the way that matters most. Because none of them woke up that morning intending for anyone to die. Fear and pride and cowardice, tangled in a knot nobody could undo. And in the center of it, a baby boy who never asked to be part of any of it. Jalen. His name means healer. Briana chose it because she wanted him to heal everything broken in her life. The love that finally stayed. He never got the chance. Briana hid a pregnancy inside camera angles and oversized hoodies because every part of her knew the truth would make him leave. But if you found this story powerful or thought-provoking, don't forget to like this video and share your thoughts in the comments below. Let us know where you're watching from, your city, your country, your corner of the world. We read them all. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next case we uncover. Thank you for watching.